Welcome to Revenge with Precious, where we share real stories of betrayal, resilience, and the courage to stand up for yourself. These are tales of people who refused to stay silent, who drew boundaries when love turned toxic, and who chose their peace over family obligation. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, these stories are for you. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that might change how you see your own life. Please, watch till the end. Let's get started. The heater in my car had been off for 3 nights straight. My breath fogged the windshield as I sat parked 2 blocks from the apartment I couldn't afford anymore. January frost crept across the glass like fingers reaching for warmth I didn't have. My phone glowed in the darkness, my father's name staring back at me. I pressed call, hoping this time would be different. "We've talked it over," Dad said before I could finish explaining. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "And the answer is no. You made your choices, Kaya. Actions have consequences." Mom's voice cut in from the background, sharp and certain. "If you can't handle $1,500, maybe you're not ready to live on your own." The line went dead. Not even a goodbye. Just silence and the hum of passing traffic. I stared at the frost patterns on the windshield, each one perfect and cold. Rent was due in 4 days. I'd already pawned my laptop. My last meal had been instant noodles from a gas station. But what they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that while they thought I was failing, I'd been quietly grinding for 2 years. Saving. Planning. Rebuilding credit they'd wrecked when Mom opened utilities in my name and never paid them. And 3 weeks ago, I'd been pre-approved for a mortgage. The house next door to theirs, the one they always complained about, had just hit the market. A year earlier, my life looked nothing like success. I lived in a basement apartment with water stains on the ceiling and a landlord who pretended the heater worked. My job was remote, data entry for a logistics company nobody had heard of. $24 an hour. 6 days a week. Nothing glamorous. Nothing worth bragging about at family dinners. I'd wake up at 6, make coffee in a chipped mug, and log in before the sun rose. My desk was a folding table. My chair squeaked. But the work was steady, and steady meant I could save. Every paycheck, I transferred money into an account my parents didn't know existed. 10% at first. Then 15. Then 20. Nobody noticed. My sister Bryn got all the attention, fresh out of college with her marketing degree and her Instagram-ready life. My parents posted about her constantly. So proud of our girl. Meanwhile, I was the cautionary tale. The one who never quite figured it out. I didn't mind being invisible. Invisible meant I could move in silence. While they watched Bryn, I watched my savings grow. Dollar by dollar. Sacrifice by sacrifice. Rice and beans became my signature meal. I stopped going out. Stopped buying anything that wasn't essential. My friends thought I was depressed. I was just focused. I used to help my parents all the time. Fix things they didn't want to pay someone else to do. When their kitchen sink started leaking, I spent a Saturday afternoon under the cabinet with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial. When their fence posts rotted, I replaced them. Dug the holes myself. Mixed the concrete. "That's what family does," Mom would say, handing me lemonade like it was payment. "We help each other." I believed her. I thought love looked like showing up, putting in work, expecting nothing back. But then Bryn needed a security deposit for her first apartment, and my parents wrote the check the same day. No questions. No lectures about budgeting or responsibility. Just support, immediate and unconditional. I needed help with groceries once. Just $50 to get through the week. Mom looked at me like I'd asked for a kidney. "Kaya, you need to budget better. We can't keep bailing you out." I hadn't asked to be bailed out. I'd asked once. But in their story, I was always asking. Always needing. Always failing to plan ahead. So I stopped asking. I fixed their sink. I repaired their fence. And I saved my money in silence, building something they couldn't see. Something they'd never give me credit for. Not yet. Family dinners were performances. Everyone gathered around my parents' table, passing dishes and pretending everything was perfect. My Aunt Simone would ask about Bryn's new job. My Uncle Theo would compliment the roast. And my father would find a way to mention me. Not by name. Just in passing. Some people take longer to figure life out, he'd say, cutting his steak. Not everyone has a plan. He'd glance at me when he said it. Not directly. Just enough so everyone knew who he meant. My cousins would nod. Bryn would look down at her plate. And I'd smile, chewing slowly, pretending the words didn't land. But I had a plan. I'd had one for 2 years. It just wasn't the kind of plan you announced at dinner. It wasn't a promotion or a degree or an engagement ring. It was spreadsheets and credit monitoring and late-night calls with a mortgage broker who believed in me more than my own parents did. I was 26, and according to my father, I was the only one in the family without direction. He didn't know I'd mapped every step. He didn't know I was 6 months from a down payment. He didn't know that while he talked about me like I was lost, I was building something that would outlast his opinions. Credit repair became my obsession. I spent nights reading forums, watching videos, learning how to dispute errors and negotiate with collectors. My score had been wrecked years ago when Mom opened a utility account in my name for a rental property she managed. She'd promised to pay it. She didn't. The bill went to collections, and my credit tanked before I even knew what credit was. I never confronted her. What was the point? She'd say it was a misunderstanding. That I should have kept track of my own accounts. That I was being dramatic. So I swallowed it and started fixing the damage myself. Dispute letter after dispute letter. Payment plan after payment plan. Watching my score crawl upward, 1 point at a time. It took 18 months to get it above 650. Another 6 to hit 680. The day I crossed 700, I sat in my car and cried. Not sad tears. Relief. I'd done it alone. No help. No shortcuts. Just discipline and refusal to quit. My parents never knew. They still thought I was barely surviving, one missed paycheck from disaster. And maybe I let them think that. Maybe it was easier that way. Because the day I proved them wrong, I wanted it to be undeniable. The house next door to my parents had been abandoned for 2 years. Peeling paint. Overgrown yard. Broken shutters hanging like loose teeth. Every time I visited, Mom would stand at the kitchen window and complain about it. That place is dragging down the whole neighborhood, she'd say, shaking her head. Someone should just tear it down. Dad would nod. It's a magnet for trouble. Probably squatters in there. I'd look at the house and see something different. Potential. Structure. Bones that were still good underneath the decay. I didn't say anything. Just filed it away. Noted the address. Checked the county records online. No recent sales. No liens. Just sitting there, waiting. Then one morning, a for sale sign appeared in the yard. Crooked, leaning to one side like it had been planted in a hurry. I drove past it 3 times that day. Memorized the number. Googled the listing. The price was low. Suspiciously low. But the photos showed what I'd suspected. Structurally sound. Just needed work. That night, I sat in my car outside my parents' house and stared at the property. My window overlooked theirs. If I bought it, I'd be their neighbor. They'd see me every day. And they'd have to reckon with the fact that I'd made it. Without them. I called the number on the sign the next morning. A woman answered, her voice soft and tired. She said her name was Dolores. She'd been a teacher for 30 years, and the house had belonged to her late brother. She just wanted it sold. No hassle. No drama. Cash or financing, she didn't care. She just wanted it gone. Do you have financing lined up? She asked. I hesitated. I'm working on it. She laughed, not unkindly. Aren't we all? Well, if you're serious, let me know. I'm not in a rush, but I'm not waiting forever either. I thanked her and hung up. Then I opened my banking app and stared at my savings. $9,000. It wasn't enough for a down payment. Not quite. But it was close. So close I could taste it. I called my freelance client, the one who'd been asking me to take on more work for months. I said yes to everything. Extra shifts. Weekend projects. Tight deadlines. I didn't care. I ate rice and beans. Stopped buying coffee. Cancelled my streaming subscriptions. Every dollar went into the account. Every single one. 6 months later, I had $11,200. Enough. Getting pre-approved was humiliating. The loan officer looked at my credit score and my income like I was asking for a miracle. He asked about my employment history. My debt-to-income ratio. My savings. Every question felt like a test I was barely passing. It's tight, he said, tapping his pen on the desk. But you're right at the edge of qualification. If you can keep your credit clean for another month, we can make this work. I kept it clean. I didn't miss a single payment. Didn't open a new account. Didn't even check my score obsessively like I wanted to. I just waited. And one Tuesday afternoon, I got the email. Pre-approved. Up to $85,000. My hands shook as I read it. I called Dolores that night. Told her I was ready. She sounded relieved. I'll get the paperwork started, she said. This is good news, honey. You're gonna do great things with that house. I wanted to believe her. But first, I had to survive the next month. Because 2 weeks after I got pre-approved, my car broke down. Then my utilities spiked. Then rent came due. And suddenly, I was $1,500 short with nowhere to turn. I tried everything before calling my parents. I picked up extra shifts. Sold my old textbooks online. Pawned my watch. But it wasn't enough. The math didn't work. So I swallowed my pride and called home. I need help, I said. My voice cracked. I hated how small I sounded. Just $1,500. I can pay you back in 2 months. I promise. Mom's sigh was loud enough to hear through the phone. Kaya, we've talked about this. You need to plan better. I did plan, I said. But my car. If you can't handle $1,500, maybe you're not ready to be on your own. Dad's voice cut in. We're not a bank, Kaya. You made the choice to move out. Now you deal with the consequences. I just need a little help. We're tight on cash right now, Mom said. Maybe ask Bryn. The next day, they posted a photo of their new patio furniture. $1,200 worth of cushioned chairs and a matching umbrella. I stared at the post until my screen went dark. Then I pawned my laptop. Slept in my car. And showed up to Zoom meetings from a McDonald's parking lot, pretending everything was fine. The day I signed the deed, the sun was out. Bright and cold. I sat in the title company's office, pen in hand, watching the notary stamp page after page. Dolores sat across from me, smiling. You're gonna love it, she said. It needs work, but it's solid. My brother built half of it himself. I signed my name 23 times. Each signature felt like cutting a string that had been tied around my chest for years. When it was done, the notary handed me the keys. 2 small brass keys on a plain ring. They weighed nothing. But holding them felt like holding proof. I drove past my parents' house on the way to the property. Mom was outside, watering her roses. She waved. I didn't stop. Just kept driving. Pulled into the driveway of the house next door. My house. I sat there for a long time, staring at the peeling paint and the overgrown grass. It looked terrible. But it was mine. That night, Dad texted me. A forwarded message about my cousin needing $500 for a car repair. Can you chip in? He asked. I stared at the message. Then I typed back, wish I could. I hit send and turned off my phone. I started renovations the next morning. Hired a contractor I found through a neighbor. He was older, gruff, but fair. He walked through the house with me, pointing out what needed fixing. Roof. Plumbing. Electrical. The list was long. But he gave me a price I could work with. You doing this alone? He asked. Yeah. He nodded. Good for you. I worked alongside him whenever I could. Pulled up old carpet. Painted walls. Hauled trash to the curb. My hands blistered. My back ached. But every room I finished felt like a victory. Every wall I painted was proof I didn't need anyone's permission to build something. My parents noticed. Of course they did. The house was right next door. They couldn't miss the trucks in the driveway. The sound of hammers. The smell of fresh paint. But they didn't come over. Didn't ask questions. Just watched from their windows like I was a stranger. One evening, Mom brought it up at dinner. I was there for Bryn's birthday. Someone bought that junk house next door, she said, cutting her cake. Young woman. Doing it all herself. Brave or foolish, I can't decide. I chewed my food and said nothing. 3 months into renovations, the HOA sent out notices. Property values on the block had increased. My repairs were making a difference. Every house got a letter. Including my parents. The notice listed me as the new owner. Kaya Pemberton. Right there in black and white. Mom called me the next morning. Her voice was tight. Is this some kind of joke? No. You bought the house next door? Yes. When? 3 months ago. Silence. Then Dad's voice in the background. Why didn't you tell us? I took a breath. You taught me not to rely on you. So I didn't. More silence. Then Mom's voice, quieter now. This is. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From release. I'd been holding this secret for months, and now it was out. They knew. And there was nothing they could do about it. That night, Bryn called. Mom's upset, she said. She thinks you did this to hurt them. I did it to survive, I said. There's a difference. The story spread fast. My Aunt Simone called to say I'd gone behind everyone's back. My Uncle Theo sent a text saying I was acting out of pride. Even my cousin reached out, asking if I was okay. As if buying a house was a cry for help. I didn't defend myself. Didn't explain. Just kept working. Painted the trim. Fixed the fence. Planted flowers in the front yard. Every improvement was visible from my parents' house. Every change was a reminder. One afternoon, Dad approached me in the driveway. He stood there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. We could have helped, he said. I asked. You said no. We didn't know you were serious about buying a house. You didn't ask. He looked at the ground. Your mother thinks you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm just done waiting for approval I was never going to get. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then turned and walked back to his yard. That was the last conversation we had for weeks. The final renovation was a fence. Tall. Solid. Painted deep green. It separated our yards completely. The contractor installed it on a Saturday. My parents watched from their porch, arms crossed. When it was finished, I heard Dad mutter something. I didn't catch the words. Didn't need to. The fence wasn't about keeping them out. It was about keeping my peace in. Drawing a line. Saying, this is mine. You don't get to comment on it. You don't get to take credit. You don't get to touch it. That night, I stood in my backyard and looked up at the stars. The air was cool. The yard was quiet. And for the first time in years, I felt safe. Not because I'd won something. But because I'd built something. Something they couldn't diminish. Something they couldn't take. Spring came. The neighborhood started noticing. Realtors used my house in their listing photos. Beautifully renovated property on a quiet street. The house that used to drag down the block was now the nicest one on it. The transformation was undeniable. My parents stopped making comments. At least to my face. I'd see them sometimes, standing in their yard, staring at my house like it was a puzzle they couldn't solve. How did she do this? How did we not know? I didn't gloat. Didn't rub it in. Just lived my life. Went to work. Paid my mortgage. Tended my garden. The house became my sanctuary. The place I'd built from nothing. The proof that I didn't need their approval. I never had. One morning, Mom appeared at my door. She looked older than I remembered. Tired. She held a covered dish. I made lasagna, she said. Thought you might want some. I stared at her. Then at the dish. Why? Because you're my daughter. I was your daughter when I asked for $1,500. Her face crumpled. Kia, You taught me I wasn't worth helping. So I learned to help myself. That's not fair. Neither was sleeping in my car while you bought patio furniture. She flinched. Set the dish on the porch. Turned and walked away. I watched her go. Felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just the quiet certainty that I'd closed a door that needed closing. Bryn visited a few weeks later. She walked through the house slowly, touching the walls, looking at the new floors. It's beautiful, she said. I didn't know you could do this. Neither did they. She sat on my couch. They feel bad, you know. Good. Kaya. I don't need their guilt. I needed their help when it mattered. They said no. So I moved on. Bryn nodded. Didn't argue. Just looked around the room like she was seeing me for the first time. I'm proud of you, she said quietly. Those words should have meant something. Maybe once they would have. But by then, I didn't need anyone's pride. I had my own. Summer brought barbecues. I hosted one in my backyard. Invited neighbors. Colleagues from work. People who'd supported me without knowing my story. The yard filled with laughter and music. The grill smoked. The sun set slow and gold. I didn't invite my parents. They weren't banned. Just not included. And when I saw Mom peeking through her blinds, I didn't wave. Didn't acknowledge her. Just raised my glass to my guests and smiled. Later, someone asked if my family lived nearby. I said, next door. Oh, are they coming? No. They didn't ask why. Just nodded and moved on. It felt good. Being honest without explaining. Letting my boundaries speak for themselves. Fall arrived. The leaves turned gold. My garden bloomed one last time before winter. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood wake up. My parents' house was quiet. Their car was in the driveway. But the lights stayed off longer each morning. I didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel like I'd won. Just felt at peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you survived something you weren't sure you'd survive. From knowing you built something when everyone said you couldn't. One evening, Dad appeared at my fence. He didn't come in. Just stood there, hands in his pockets. "The house looks good," he said. "I know. I'm sorry we didn't help." "I know." He nodded. Turned to leave. Then stopped. "For what it's worth. I'm proud of you." I didn't answer. Just watched him walk away. Those words used to be all I wanted. Now they were just sounds. Hollow and too late. Winter returned. The anniversary of that phone call. 1 year since I'd sat in my car, freezing, asking for help I'd never get. I thought about that version of me sometimes. The one who still believed her parents might show up. Who still held hope like a fragile thing. She'd be proud of who I became. Proud I didn't quit. Proud I built this house, this life, this peace. And proud I did it without becoming bitter. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't hurt. Just clear. Clear about who I was. Clear about who they were. And clear about the distance between us. One night, I stood by my window. The one that overlooked their house. The lights were on. I could see them moving through the rooms. Living their lives. Probably talking about me. Probably still trying to make sense of it all. I didn't need them to understand. Didn't need closure or apologies or reconciliation. I just needed them to know I'd made it. Without them. Despite them. And that I was fine. Better than fine. I pulled the curtains closed. Turned off the light. And went to bed in a house I'd earned. Every beam. Every nail. Every quiet victory. The mailbox conversations started around then. Small talk. Forced pleasantries. Nice weather. Yeah. How's work? Good. We were neighbors now. Strangers with shared blood and a fence between us. I didn't hate them. Didn't love them either. Just existed beside them. Close enough to see. Far enough to stay safe. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined as a kid. But it was the ending I'd earned. Spring came again. I planted new flowers. Repainted the shutters. Made the house even more mine. People would stop sometimes. Ask if I was selling. I always said no. This wasn't an investment property. This was home. One evening, a young couple knocked on my door. They'd just bought a house 2 blocks over. Needed help with renovations. Didn't know where to start. I invited them in. Showed them what I'd done. Gave them the contractor's number. Watched their faces light up with possibility. That felt better than any revenge. Better than any confrontation. Helping someone else build something when I knew what it was like to build alone. The neighborhood threw a block party that summer. I went. My parents went. We stood on opposite sides of the street. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. The house between us said everything. Bryn came. Brought her new boyfriend. Introduced me to him as my sister who renovated that house by herself. He looked impressed. I just shrugged. It wasn't about impressing anyone anymore. It was just my life. 2 years after that phone call, I stood in my backyard at sunset. The garden was in full bloom. The fence was solid. The house was quiet and mine. I thought about the girl who'd slept in her car. Who'd pawned everything. Who'd been told she wasn't ready. She was ready. She'd always been ready. She just needed space to prove it. And now she had it. A whole house. A whole life. A whole future she'd built with her own hands. My parents were next door. I could hear their TV through the window. Could see their shadows moving. We were close enough to touch. But the distance felt right. Healthy. Necessary. I raised my glass to no one. Didn't toast to revenge or victory. Just breathed. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely, undeniably free. Not because I'd beaten anyone. But because I'd finally chosen myself. And that was enough. Thank you for watching this story. If moments like these resonate with you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over people who couldn't see you, then you're not alone. We share stories like this every single day, real accounts of people who found their voice, set their boundaries, and walked into the life they deserved. Subscribe so you never miss next upload, and share your own story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Compliment of the season. I love you all.